Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I want to do a follow-up video on the baits and lures that I used at Clarks Hill for a top 20 finish. Guys, it was another good solid tournament. We are 2 for 2 this season with top 20s. We're sitting in 6th in the AOI points overall. Need to be in the top 8 at the end of the year to get moved up to the BPT. That's the ultimate goal. So we're on target right now, but we need to keep it rolling. We need to continue to have good tournaments in the last 4 events if we want to be there. And I'm excited to get to those. I mean, I feel like they set up pretty well. But I want to talk a little bit about Clarks Hill. You've now seen over the last 3 days the 3 tournament recaps of on the water footage. And even though the fishing was good and I had a good finish, my practice was terrible. So I want to break down practice and I want to break down the tournament and go over the baits for you. Before I do get into that, I do want to point out, guys, we are doing our best to get the hover rig hooks out. The support has been overwhelming. We had to place a second order. Those orders are coming in. Obviously, I've been gone for a week or so at this point. I do have help in terms of shipping some stuff out, but we are waiting on the second order. They're supposed to be here today, I believe. If this is going to air, this will probably air Monday. We're supposed to get them today. I'm filming this on Saturday. So at this point, just bear with me, guys. Please be patient. We're going to do our best to get them out. We've got a pile of orders to catch up on. And I think you're really going to enjoy it because the baits are catching fish. I'm getting pictures and feedback from people all over the place. We've had several pictures of 6 to 7 pound class bass that have been caught on the hover rigs. So I want to know if you catch them, send in what the biggest fish are. Send in pictures to Core Tackle. They use an email link that you can contact us on the website, coretackle.com. Keep the feedback coming. If there's things that you want to see changed, maybe you want to see additional sizes, please provide us with that feedback. We've got a lot of good ideas with the hover rig coming out and that we're working on right now, but just be patient. Once we get this backlog caught up, I don't foresee it being a long wait. I'd like to think that orders will go out in a day or two, but right now we're just trying to get caught up on that initial back order. And the second order of hooks we've got coming in are, should be able to handle orders for a long period of time. So please be patient. Just know that it's catching fish. In practice, I had a really good time fishing the 3/64 ounce hover rig, and I paired it up right here. This is a Kitech Shad Impact. This is the 4-inch size. And it just fit really well. And the spotted bass were just eating this thing up. I mean, it just seemed like you could fish any point, any pocket, and you'd catch spotted bass, you'd catch some small largemouth. The problem is at Clarks Hill Lake, a 2 or 2.5 pound spotted bass is a good spotted bass. There are not that many fish over 2.5 pounds. My biggest fish that I caught in practice, biggest spotted bass, was a 238, so under 2.5 pounds. But I do know there were guys that did well. I think there were probably a few guys that did cash checks. If they were able to get to that 13-pound per day mark, they were probably able to cash a check, but they would have been at the bottom. So I chose to, for the most part, ignore the spotted bass in the event. I did have some clay points that I felt like I could potentially catch a limit easily, even though that didn't happen any of the mornings. And I also felt like that's where I saw the couple of fish that I caught that were like pushing 2.5. They're better than 2.25. And I thought if I could catch a couple quick, then I could, use those fish potentially to be on the small size of my bag if I could catch some good largemouth, which I was able to do. But I got to tell you, this hover rig, like on this Shad Impact, was slaughtering the fish. I even filmed a video that I'll air over the next couple of weeks, just kind of showing you, while I was practicing. I think I was able to film that video. I think I let the camera roll for 17 minutes. I think I caught 5 or 6 fish. I mean, that's just how good it was. The problem was the quality of fish. They were all 14-inch fish. But so the hover rig did not really come, it was not a major player for me in this event, unfortunately, because I really thought it was going to be. And in fact, I probably spent too much time chasing spotted bass. I probably spent 4 or 5 hours every morning doing it, and I should have probably just committed completely to largemouth. And what happened in the practice then is I never really got on a good largemouth thing. The first day I had one creek that I think I shook off 6 to 8 bites. I did catch one fish and it was a 3 pounder, but even those bites I shook off, a lot of them didn't feel real good. And those bites all came flipping a jig. This is one that Hank made for me. And just to go over the tackle, I guess, I was throwing the hover rig. I was throwing on an MHX NSJ 871, so it's a 7.3 medium light fast action spinning rod, and I had it paired up with an Abu Garcia Revo rocket. And the reason I wanted the rocket on this reel is because it picks up line so much faster that most of my bites on this was coming on that initial fall. I maybe worked it a little bit back to the boat, but I really was making long casts, letting it fall to the bottom, letting it glide around, popped it a few times, let it glide back down, and then reeled it back in. So I was maybe working it for the first quarter of the cast, and having that fast reel picked up line quicker, allowed me to make more casts. So then in practice, I was throwing this jig right here. As you can see, it is beaten up. This is I guess it's a custom-made jig that, we made here in house. This is a skirt that Hank put together for me. I said I wanted something primarily green pumpkin, but I wanted a lot of color in it, some random strands of color. So he put some yellow, a little bit of orange, a little bit of blue, and a couple of chartreuse. As you can see, this thing really, I put a lot of work on it, and I caught a lot of fish on it. But in practice, this was the bait that I shook off the fish on. I just covered my hook over, and it kind of was the bait that got me to the finish I had, because other than that first day of practice, the other 2 days, I did not find much in terms of largemouth. I did not go sight fishing. I probably should have tried that, but I mean, in hindsight is 2020, right? I'm happy with the top 20. Maybe it would have been nice to have a few bed fish found, but maybe I had found a few bed fish and that would have steered me away from what I did. Fished this on an MHX. This is the NMB 874. So it's a 4-power. It's a straight, medium, heavy, fast action, 7'3" rod. And I paired it up here with the Abu Garcia Xenon MGX 8.0 to 1, I believe is what this one is. Just an awesome reel. This is their first year with the Xenon series, and I'm absolutely loving them. It's just a phenomenal reel. It is a high-end reel, but it's a very, very good reel. And then on the last day of practice, my roommate Chris Groh kind of turned me on to a little bit of a crankbait bite for those spotted bass. We were throwing various crankbaits. For me, my go-to crankbait was this guy right here. This is the Berkeley Money Badger. This is the 6.75 that I was throwing. Just a great all-around crankbait, and they were really hitting it hard. I mean, there was no doubt about the bites. They were just really unloading on that bait. And I paired it up with a MHX CB 906. This is a blended 7.5-foot rod, just so you can make really long casts, but it still has the soft tip. It's a little bit more of a moderate speed, so it allows the fish to get the bait in. And then I had it paired up with a discontinued Revo, Abu Garcia Revo MGX. And again, I went with a fast reel. This is an 8.0 to 1. I like that in this case with the crankbait, which I generally don't like on crankbaits, but it almost seemed like the faster you worked it, the better in some standpoints, and the spotted bass were eating that. So when it came to the tournament, I didn't have much. My practice was one of the worst practices I've had in a long time, but a lot of times what that does is it allows you to concentrate in areas where you did get some bites, and it also allows you to have a really open mind. So what I decided to do was to go back. I decided to start on a couple of clay points, throwing the Money Badger, as well as another Berkeley prototype crankbait, and just to see if I could catch a limit quick, because the bites for largemouth were few and far between, that I felt like at least if I could have a limit or close to a limit of spotted bass of any size, what that would do is kind of settle me down. So I spent a couple hours bouncing around the first morning for spotted bass, and I ended up getting a limit, but they weighed 5 pounds. I mean, when I say 5 pounds, I'm talking they literally weighed 5 pounds. Three of those fish, when I put them on the scale, were under a pound each. So, in hindsight, I wasted my time, in my opinion, chasing them, but I was able to catch a limit on the money badger pretty quick. And then I just went to that largemouth area and put the trolling motor down. I decided I would fish pretty much everything. I wanted to go in and out of every pocket and really try to figure them out. In practice, I was concentrating on any target. So your docks, your laydowns, maybe some big boulders or rock transitions. And it didn't seem like that was panning out that well. I was getting some bites on some wood, and I had one small bite on a dock, but it was not, it was mostly wood is where I was getting my bites, like really shallow wood, like almost spawning type wood. And I think the fish were spawning when I get that bite. But I knew some guys from practice were catching them just going down the bank with a chatterbait. So I decided I would rig up a chatterbait as well. In this case, this is a Z-Man jackhammer. This is a 1/2 ounce. The one I started with was actually a green pumpkin, and I was throwing on the back. This is the Berkeley Power Stinger. It's the 4¼ inch size, which I really like. But I was throwing a green pumpkin uh, with a red trailer on it. The thing is, the last day, day 3 of the tournament, in the last hour, I broke off 3 of these, getting stuck under docks. So this is the last one I had tied on. This is a black and blue, but I was preferring either straight green pumpkin, or I think it's called the Heights Craw. It's green pumpkin with some red, and then I had the red Power Stinger on the back, and that just kind of was what I was with. But in the last 10 minutes, I broke one off and I tied this one on. But it didn't really seem to matter because I was throwing those green pumpkin variations, and then I did catch a couple on the last day as well on black and blue, but green pumpkin is the one I was throwing mostly. The chatterbait or the jackhammer is the one I chose to go with because I can get that a little deeper than if I was throwing the slobber knocker by Berkeley. That tends to rise more. And I wasn't fishing that around much cover at all. I was fishing that as I was just going down, bare banks, and I was fishing it around the docks. So on day 3, what I recognized was I got a couple of fish just going down the bank, fishing do nothing banks. And then I also did, though, get a pre-spawn female. It was like a 3-pounder off a dock. And I got one off of a main creek channel laydown. So it kind of keyed me in that, okay, there was a dock bite potentially. There was, maybe, I was in practice concentrating in the pockets. But what I found is I caught my biggest fish off that dock, and I caught a 4-pound pre-spawn female off a main point or a secondary point laydown. And both those fish were pre-spawn. So I kind of thought, okay, these fish are further out than I thought they were. And I ended the day with 14-1. I was like in 30th place, 35th place. In day 2, I went back. I started on spy bass, caught 2 little ones quick. One was actually about a 2.5-pounder, which I did weigh in. So I caught those 2. Then I went to the largemouth area, same creek, same area. And I just started covering more water. And I had 4 fish for 7 pounds by like noon. And I came to a dock, fired alongside the dock, caught a 2.5-pound pre-spawn female, gave me my limit. I was happy. I go to the other side of the dock, fire another one along the dock, and catch a 4.25 pre-spawn female off the same dock. And I'm like, all right, now, we're in check range. Let's keep it going. So at that point, I kind of decided, because the bites were so tough, that I would key in on just docks. And over the next hour and a half, I ran only docks. I'd fish a dock, I'd pick the motor up, go to the next one, and I ended up catching another 4.75, another 3-pounder, a bunch of 2-pounders, and I was like, the docks are the deal right now. So I ended up day 2 with 17 something, and all those dock fish were coming on the jackhammer with a Berkeley Power Stinger, and I did catch one on the jig on day 2. On day 1, every one of my weigh-in fish were, I think I had 2 on the jig and I had 3 on that jackhammer. And then going into day 3, I decided I would only fish docks after what I saw. The problem was we had a rainy, overcast day, not ideal dock fishing, but it really was still the thing that I felt most comfortable with. And I ended up having a shot at a good bag. I caught 2 fish that were 4 3/4 pounds. I had a limit by I want to say 10:30, and the other 3 were all under 1.5 pounds that I ended up catching all on the money badger to kind of fill that limit out. So I knew if I could get bit on the docks, there was a better shot they'd be big. But when I came to a target like some riprap or a boat ramp, I threw that money badger and it was able to catch a few small fish. But once I had the limit, I said I'm only fishing docks. I got 2 good bites. One while it was raining, one while it was just overcast, and I had several hours to kind of end on a high note, and I caught a few small ones that culled me up a few ounces. And at the end of the day, I ended up hooking one that was 3 to 4 pounds that got me stuck on a cable with like 7 minutes of fishing time left. That would have been a huge upgrade. But every fish, 4 of the fish I weighed in were on the jackhammer on day 3. One was on Hank's jig. And one of the biggest bummers is I ended up getting a 1 pound penalty on day 3 for being 1 minute late to check-in, which flabbergasted me because when I arrived to the check-in boat, my Lowrance units said 2:57. We were due in at 3 o'clock. And in turn, they had some sort of glitch. So when I checked in with the officials said you're 1 minute late. I said it's 2:57. I showed them my graphs. They said check your phone. I pulled my phone up, and at that point it had changed to 3:02. And I checked their Lowrance graphs, which said 3:02. So mine had a glitch at some point. So even though I planned out my day, I was back on time in my eyes, I ended up getting a 1 pound penalty. So I had 14.2 on the final day. After the penalty, I weighed 13.2. It cost me 2 spots. So instead of finishing 18th, I finished 20th. Didn't really hurt me from a standpoint of money, but those 2 points really could bother me at the end of the year. 2 points, it really can make a difference at the end of the year. But that's the whole tournament in a nutshell. It really was one where I just kind of adjusted as the day went. But what I found was that the bigger females still had not spawned in the area that I was in, and they were staging, out on some of those docks, some of the laydown. There were very few people keying in on docks. There were several other guys in that area fishing shoreline laydowns. So I kind of feel like because I was able to make the switch to docks, I was able to generate a few of those better bites. But that's it in a nutshell, guys. Some tournaments, you don't have a plan going into the tournament. You have to figure it out, and you have to be confident in yourself. And I really don't feel like I would change much at this point. I'm very satisfied with my decision making and how everything went down. So let me know if you've got any questions based on what I was doing. Feel free to throw that in the comments section. Otherwise, I'll put links to all of these baits up so that you can check them out yourself at Tackle Warehouse. And I appreciate all the support, all of everyone following along. We got 2 tournaments down, 4 to go. We need 4 more good, solid tournaments, and we'll be right where we want to go. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow for you.